everybody for joining us. We might as well get started. We appreciate you zooming in today with us. On behalf of the Sandbox Center, welcome to our Experts in Residence session, Communications and Creativity, featuring today's expert, Ovation speaker training. For those who haven't been acquainted with me or the Sandbox, my name is Mackenzie. I'm one of the 6 team members. We're located downtown Barrie and online to connect people and their ideas to business resources so that they can create a better life through business. Sandbox is proud to acknowledge that we're positioned on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, which include the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge the Wendat Nation, who occupied these lands prior to the middle of the 17th century. We're committed to educating ourselves and our community on the importance of honoring the first occupancy of this land while supporting the actionable steps toward reconciliation. Now, if you haven't attended one of our Experts in Residence sessions before, we're happy to have you with us. And for those returning, welcome back. Across a wide variety of topics and expertise, our EIR program provides a free all-access opportunity for you to share and receive expert feedback in order to support your business moving forward with greater clarity. Today, we know there are various platforms to speak your mind and share your story. And because of the current landscape we've been faced with, it seems that the muscle that helps us connect to people one-on-one has somewhat weakened. And today we're super excited to have communications and speaking expert Jan Bailey of Ovation Speaker Training help us learn how to rebuild your foundation for creating intriguing interactions so that you're able to start fascinating conversations that build relationships in your personal and professional circle, whether it be in person or virtually. Jan has designed and delivered hundreds of workshops internationally on public speaking, stage presence, on-camera presentations, and communication. Along with writing and producing a 10-part career development series of books, Jan's 27-year career has involved extensive on-camera experience as a television host, along with being a longtime professor of communications. So we have an expert on our hands. We're so excited to dive in. Before we do, we'd like to thank our community partners with sharing of our events, and a huge thank you to our sponsor, Ovation Speaker Training, for delivering today's session. If you have any questions that happen to pop across your mind during today's session, we definitely encourage you to use the Q&A feature that's just at the bottom of your screen or the chat, and we'll be sure to answer them towards the end. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome, Jan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I'm very happy to be here in my own office, joining you in your office. It's quite fabulous. So, but I do feel people like we're moving towards some connection, which is really great as things start to open up. So I'm very excited. I laughed this morning. I was saying to myself that, gosh, I feel a bit weird this morning as I'm heading toward the Sandbox webinar. What's wrong with me? I feel a bit strange. I feel a bit odd. And then I realized I'm a bit nervous. And I thought, what a strange feeling, right? Because we're so insular now. It's like we don't go out, we don't meet people, we don't connect as much as we used to. And so when presented with the idea of speaking to a group of people, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm out of practice and I'm a little bit nervous and excited. So I thought I would share that with you all, because we have this notion that when we network or when we present or when we go out and we meet with people, well, we're not supposed to be nervous. Well, yeah, we are, because if you're not a little bit nervous or a little bit, I like to say excited, and those of you who have done some workshops with me before, you'll know that actually nervous and excited feel a whole lot the same in the body. So if you're not a little bit nervous, well, you might be a little bit dull. So nervous and excited is a good thing. So I thought I would share that with you this morning, that I was in fact a little bit nervous coming into this. So that to me is great, because it means, wow, stepping back in and excited, because most of the work that I'm doing right now, and maybe some of you as well, is one-on-one, and it kind of makes for a different dynamic when you're speaking to a group. So I'm very happy to be here this morning, and we're going to kick off. It feels a bit like a dating session, because we're going to talk about how to create dynamic conversations, because conversations plus connections equal clients. And I think somehow, or kind of along the way, we've forgotten that a little bit. So we're going to revisit some of that and talk about some examples of how you can crank up the energy and the intrigue and the interest level of your networking and your opening conversations. So, but first, I thought I would provide you all with an excuse. Yeah, that's what we're going to do right off the top. We're going to talk about the excuse that we can all use for not being particularly skilled at networking these days, because we're all lagging a bit. Anyway, I'm actually being a bit facetious, because I always laugh when during this last year and a half, when and we've all been on this roller coaster of COVID, and sort of in and out, and lockdowns and not, and we feel like we're coming into the summer, and so it's been an interesting ride for all of us. But I always laugh, because as we go to do things, or to buy things, or to find things, there's always, it's like we've started to use COVID as a, I don't know, is it a verb, is it an adjective, is it a thing, is it an entity, it's an excuse, it's a whatever. Because I laughed, my husband and I, we went to go kayaking, and we're looking for a boat launch. We didn't plan it very well, and we were trying to find a spot to launch our kayaks, which doesn't seem like it would be all that difficult. So take the boats off the top of the vehicle, put them in the water, and then leave the boats there, park the car somewhere, and then come back to the boats. That's really all. What does that take? 10 minutes? And so I went into this, it was like an RV, I guess, hut, I suppose, or a kind of a check-in place. And I said to the man, I said, this is who I am, and we've just driven up for the day, and this is what we'd like to do. And do you mind if I just quickly unload our boats, and then we'll park elsewhere? And he said, oh, no, I'm sorry, I can't let you do that. And I said, oh, okay. How come? COVID. And I'm thinking to myself, what? How is COVID? And I went, oh, okay. And I laughed. So I laughed to myself, and I thought, oh my gosh, we get to use it as an excuse for everything. May I have a bagel, please? No, we don't have any bagels. Why are there no bagels? COVID. Okay. So I'm offering you how come the networking's not going very well? COVID. But this one you can actually use, because conversation and communication is a muscle. It really is. It's something that we have to practice. Good communication isn't something that just miraculously happens. It's a skill that we have to practice. We have to hear ourselves, we have to gauge other people's reactions, and then we kind of tweak and modify. Well, when you're standing in your own office and there's nobody else around, and you can't gauge other people's reactions, and you don't get to practice as much, well, guess what? That muscle, like Mackenzie said a little bit earlier, it atrophies, right? It gets a bit weak. And so that one, unlike the kayaking, we can actually blame on COVID, because we're all a little bit out of practice. And the reason I'm telling you this is because A, it's kind of funny in my mind, and B, because I really want you to cut yourself a little bit of slack, because we're all a little bit out of practice. And we've all had to relearn, well, maybe not relearn, we've all had to learn how to use communication in a different way, especially with this little camera here right in front of us. And that is making people feel a little bit awkward as well. So there, I have provided you with a fabulous set of rationale. We're not going to call it excuses, of rationale why things have changed a little bit. So today we're going to crank it up a little bit, because as things start to open up and we all move back into a hybrid, maybe working environment, or we're all shifting again, well, that means we have to kind of crank our skills up a little bit, doesn't it? Excuse me. So it's a challenge, because networking is essential. Business communication is essential. And I don't know about any of you, but sometimes it feels as though there's just this bizarre ride of, well, what are the rules today? How are we supposed to present our business today? It's different 5 years ago than it is now. It will be different probably next year. So there are different methods, and we're going to take a look at those today, and maybe you can fit your own business into that. And I don't know about you, but it's difficult to know where the line is sometimes, isn't it? Because if you grew up with parents like mine, you were taught right from an early age, maybe this sounds familiar to some of you, you're taught from real, oh, don't brag. Oh, no, don't talk too highly about yourself, because other people they won't like the way that sounds, and that makes other people uncomfortable. And so you just have to downplay, low key, go with the low key, talk about, even if you're spectacular at something, you got to play that down. And so we go from that to, okay, well, wait a minute. Now I'm trying to get a job, for example. Say you're out of high school, you're out of university, and now guess what you have to do? Well, you have to talk about yourself. You have to brag in essence, right? You got to talk about what you're good at, what you do, how you solve problems, how you connect, all of these things that you are skilled at, but your parents said, no, don't do that. Okay, so you got to figure that out. It feels a bit like this, doesn't it? Okay, so what are the rules? And that's a bit of a challenge. So we're going to back that up a little bit, that whole notion of networking, and we're just going to talk about communication, period. Because really, in the end, that's what I want you to get from today. I want you to think of networking as conversation, because when we think about it as networking, there's a goal, isn't there? Right? Yeah, you've got a goal. When you go to a networking event, whether you do it online or whether you do it live, you go to a networking event. What's your goal? Okay, what just popped into your head? You go to an event and your goal is, well, duh, Jan, to maybe collect a bunch of business cards, maybe to get people's coordinates, maybe to book some actual appointments or some actual client interactions for later. Are those all your goals? I may have missed some, I'm not sure, but those are kind of the fundamental goals, right? Well, I want to shift that a little bit for you today. How about we think about the goal of a networking event to be memorable? Okay, to be memorable. Okay, well, how do you do that? That's great, Jen. That sounds like a really good idea. How would you like me to be memorable? Should I wear a funky shirt? Should I wear a bizarre hat that people will remember? Should I bring gifts? Okay, well, you could do those sort of things. That might be fun as well. But I'm going to ask you to try to be, or to think about being intriguing. Think about being interesting. Think about being engaging. Think about being you. And sometimes we lose that because we're so busy trying to make our way around the room and collect those business cards. Because remember, the new rule is you collect them. You don't give them out, you collect them so that you can connect with people after. Well, how about we think about connecting people with people while we're there? Because I think that's the part that we forget. And we forget that this is really about connection with people. Now, how do we do that? So let's talk a little bit about the way we have been encouraged in recent times to share our business, to share our expertise, because there is a formula, isn't there? There's a formula of how you're supposed to introduce yourself. If you're delivering, maybe it's an elevator pitch, because we all know what that is. Maybe it's just your opening blurb, if you think about it like that, or maybe it's your, hi, my name is Jan and I, right? We've all got one of those. And the current advice, we'll call it, the current advice or the current formula is for you to demonstrate or share with people how you can solve their problems, right? So you know your client, you know your avatar, if you will, and that client has a particular set of maybe issues or concerns or problems that they would like to have solved. And you, with your business, whatever it might be, have the skills or the tools or the product to solve those problems. Does this all, yeah, this all makes sense? I'm not telling you anything you don't know yet, right? Excellent. So you, my thought is, you probably have a short 1 or 2 sentence, I'm just going to call it a blurb that tells people how you solve their problems, who you are and how you solve their problems, right? Okay, so here's how this goes. I'm going to actually read mine and I'm going to show you how this works. So if you say something to the effect of well, you know what? You say something to the effect of, hi, my name is Jan Bailey, and I help people level up their communication and their confidence so that they can dramatically improve the way they connect with people effectively, online and in person. Cool. Do you know somebody who might benefit from my services? Not really. Great. So what do you do? Okay, now, being a little facetious, But sometimes that's how it goes, isn't it? I'm all enthusiastic about what it is that I do and I want to share with you and I know that I can help you. I absolutely do. And you go, nope, don't need that right now in my life. Because sometimes the people that we're speaking to, they don't even know how they could use your services or how they could use your product. So when you share it with them and it's a conversation stopper, no, I don't have anybody. No, I can't use those services. A conversation stopper, well, now what do we do? And you've all been in those situations, haven't you? Where maybe it's not a networking function, maybe it's just a backyard something, maybe it's a cocktail party, maybe it's I don't know, you've gone out with friends and you meet people who just, you kind of come up against it, don't you? You go, hey, hi, how's it? And the conversation ends. Well, I guarantee you, because you've all been there, that sometimes that happens. So if that is your blurb that, hey, my name is, and this is the problem I solved, do you know anybody who needs that? And the conversation goes, no, I don't. Well, now where are you left? That's the challenge. So if I use that statement, that problem solving statement, does that make me memorable? And that's what I'd like you to ask yourself. If the conversation just stops, granted, you might get lucky and the person who I have just delivered my blurb to says, oh my gosh, Jan, I'm so glad that I met you today because yes, I've got this presentation that I have to deliver to the board that's coming up soon and I really need some help. Well, woohoo! I got lucky, didn't I? My timing was good. I met the right person. I happened to connect with them and everything is right with the world. But that doesn't always happen. So what I need to try to figure out is how to make myself, how do you make yourself memorable so that when that person walks away and they go talk to another friend, they go back to work on Monday, they remember you. You were this interesting person. And oh yeah, they had this really cool service as well, or this really cool product, right? That's the goal. That's the goal, is to be memorable. Now, you don't necessarily do that by saying, here's my services and here's what I do and here's how I can help you, because you don't even know yet if they need to be helped, right? That's the challenge. Okay, so this about today's kind of next level stuff. Now, please know that I'm not discounting or I'm not poo-pooing your problem solving blurb, because I think it's a brilliant start, because we have to figure out, and sometimes it's hard as entrepreneurs, isn't it? We have to figure out who we are and what it is that we do. We kind of got to distill it, right? Because we come with this great suite of services or products or cool things that we can do or want to do or will do, and we have to go so that we can turn it into a statement that's easy to talk about and easy to share. So congratulations. If you have done that, that's a big task. It really is, because sometimes that's hard for us to do, especially as entrepreneurs, because we're all accustomed to juggling a bunch of balls at the same time. So I think that's great. So today we're kind of next leveling it. So please don't think, oh my God, I've got to throw that out after all that work. No. That's definitely not what I'm saying. Use that, excuse me, and we're going to level that up, okay? We're trying to make today as a conversation starter, because remember, conversation plus connection equals clients. It's still a bit like dating. It's been a long time since I've been dating, but that's how I remember dating. Okay, so here, let's try this one. Let's try this version. So we'll use my experience, just because I don't know everyone who's in the audience right now, but I hope that you'll kind of play along a little bit and jot some ideas down that come into your head as you're thinking about this in a conversation kind of way. So how about we start like this instead of, hi, my name is Jan Bailey, right? Hey, hi, great to meet you. Did you know that employers list effective communication as the second most important thing that they look for in a new hire? You know what? I actually didn't know that. I know, right? Isn't that amazing? Because it's a soft skill. We don't think about it like that. And did you also know, and this is a problem, 7 out of 10 people, 7 out of 10 people fear speaking in front of others. One of their top 3 biggest fears. Oh, really? Wow. Okay. That I can believe. I know, right? 7 out of 10 people. That's crazy. So think about that as a problem. You've got people who need communication skills and they're afraid to communicate. But you know what? There's a solution. And I have that solution. I offer a great program that helps people be comfortable speaking in front of others. Okay. That's the end of my role play. This is my acting. Okay, person A, person B. Yeah. So what happened there? What did I do that was a little bit different? Okay, I asked some questions. Did you know? So as soon as I say to you, hey, Steve, did you know? What do you do? What happens in your brain? Well, automatically you go and you pay attention, right? Because I'm asking you a question. I'm specifically looking at you and asking you a question. And so what do? Well, you pay attention, right? You automatically pay attention because I'm going to ask you a question I expect an answer to. So I'll say, did you know? You engage, and then I tell you something a little bit interesting, that 7 out of, what was the statistic that I used? Oh yeah, that employers list effective communication as the second most important skill in a new hire. That actually is a true statistic. Oh my gosh, statistic. And you go, oh, interesting, because we like interesting facts. Now we marry it with another, did you also know? Well, what am I doing? I'm taking my big skill set of courses and skills and training and whatnots, and I'm going, right? Coming down, distilling all of that information so that I can then say, oh my gosh, did you know there's this big problem and this problem and this problem? And guess what? I can solve it, right? So I'm using conversation, using engaging questions, asking that person to think a little bit while I set myself up to be the problem solver. Okay. Do you get this? Oh, look, this is my emoji. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, there it is. There we go. See, that is a totally great beginning of how to engage a conversation. And then the other thing that might happen is along the way, while I'm doing this, is we might just have a really interesting conversation, because Steve might say to me, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm in HR and I did it. And then we have a conversation. Or Steve might say, oh, my son just got hired and they were told, right? And guess what that does? That makes me memorable, because when Steve, I don't know why his name is Steve, when Steve goes to the next person, he'll say, oh yeah, I spoke to that woman over there. Or when Steve goes home, he's now going to remember the interesting conversations that he had, or the ones that flowed, or the ones maybe where he learned something. So if I can be that person, then that's a good thing, because now I become memorable. Because how many times has this happened to you? Oh, it's happened to me before. I don't like it. You've got someone's business card at a networking event. You've had what you thought was at least a fleetingly interesting conversation, and then a day later or 2 days later, you pick up the phone and you call that person and you say, hi, my name is, and remember we met at that networking function. And they go, I'm sorry, who? Okay, am I the only one this has ever happened to? And you say, oh, well, remember, and now you're struggling, right? You're thinking, okay, what? Remember, I was the person who said and this and that. I was the one who was wearing the bright yellow shirt. Ever done that? How? Okay, I know. I'm laughing at me, but I hope we're laughing together, because it's happened to all of us. It's happened to all of us in those networking events. So if you have an exchange, if you have a conversation, and you remind them of your name on the back end of it, then that person is going, well, the likelihood of that person remembering you, connecting you, slotting you into their list of, oh yeah, that's that woman who does communication. The statistics, the odds of that are much, much greater. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make sense? So what did I do? I went like this. I set up a problem. Did you know? Did you know? And did you know? Here's the problem. Oh my goodness, this is happening. I can solve it. Okay, so that's our second strategy. So we went from I solve this problem for people. Then we went to I acknowledge the problem on a bigger scale. And I got the person to actually think about it. Did you know? Right? Because those are engaging. That's an engaging question. And then I set myself up as the problem solver by creating a little bit more of a dialogue. Okay. Now, please keep in mind, this popped into my head that this is done in a conversational networking kind of environment, as opposed to the elevator speech, right? The elevator pitch that we are sometimes asked to give, right? You've got 30 seconds, go. This is a bit different, but you can still use that, can't you? Even if it's an introduction of yourself, you could still just deliver it like an elevator pitch. You could still say, did you know? Hi, everyone, my name is Jan Bailey. Did you know that, blah, 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 right? Did you also know, right? Well, I offer. Thank you, my name is Jan Bailey, right? You could still do that as your elevator pitch. It works quite nicely, okay? Because what I'm asking you to think about here is thinking about, is your elevator pitch kind of a one-way ride, right? We want to start a conversation, a dialogue, not a monologue, okay? Make sense? Excellent. Next, so we've got that sort of setting up the problem. Now, how about this one? What I really want you today to take away from today is, I want you to take away the idea or the seed of an idea that says, how can I get people into a conversation? And that is the goal here. So how about, here's another one. We're going to do this, we're going to call this the best solution. I got to work on the glare there, don't I? You can't really see my emojis. Anyway, here's the best solution. So we've met at this networking event and we're all standing around feeling a little bit awkward, and we get to that stage where, and it's so easy. So what do you do for a living? Right? It's just kind of a natural question. And instead of saying, well, I'm a communications professional, I'm a speaker trainer, try having to say that one. Yeah, I teach people how to be better public speakers. Yeah. You know what happens to me when I say that at networking events? People go, oh, that's great. Right? Why? Because 7 out of 10 people list public speaking as one of their biggest fears. So I come in and I say, guess what I do? And they all go, that's great. Right? So clearly, I have to find a better way to share that experience or share my skill, because otherwise nobody in the room wants to talk to me at all, ever. Do you feel bad for me yet? You feeling sorry for me yet? No. Okay. Okay, moving on. Here's what I would like you to do. So they say, hey, nice to meet you. This is a great event, isn't it? Yeah, lovely snacks. Perfect. So what is it that you do? Now, start with a question. Not just a question about interesting things or statistics. How about this one? Have you ever opened your mouth to deliver a presentation to a room full of people and nothing came out? And the person goes, you know what? I have done that. Oh my God, it's the worst feeling in the world. Oh, I hate it. I was so embarrassed. How did you know? Well, okay, let me ask you this. Do you ever feel like you have to be something or someone other than yourself when you're presenting at work? Oh, I feel like that all the time. I feel like I have to be an accountant. I feel like I have to be an engineer. I feel like I have to be the smartest person in the room. I hate that feeling. Well, what did you do about it? I didn't do anything about it. I just got really nervous and felt really uncomfortable, and I made it through the presentation. That's all I did. I just made it through the presentation, and I lived And now I try not to do presentations anymore. Well, that's what I do. I help people like you do more than just get through their presentations. I can help you actually begin to enjoy delivering presentations. Okay, so that is how we want to do this. Okay, so what did I do there? Now a little bit clunky because I'm trying to be two people here at the same time. I failed miserably on my back and forth. So what did I do there? I thought about, well, why are people so scared of public speaking? Why don't people want to do this? Well, because they're embarrassed. Okay. They don't want to be embarrassed. Okay. Everyone has a public speaking story. Everybody across the board. So I tap into that and I say to myself, has this ever happened to you? Oh, yeah, it has. Okay. How did you feel when this happened to you? I didn't feel very good. Okay, I can help you change that. Right? So what did I do? Not only did I connect to their intellectual engagement, right? Like I did in the first one where I said, did you know employers list communication skills, right? That's very intellectual. Now I connected to, oh, I was so embarrassed, to that emotion, that feeling of, I really don't want to have that happen again. And then I step in as the person who says, you know what? I can help you with that. So you can use this strategy with whatever your business is, right? Think about it from the other side of the coin. Not what do you want to tell your audience, to tell people at a networking event, but what is it that they want to hear? Okay, not what do you want to tell them, but what do they want to hear, right? So they want to hear that, oh my gosh, I have this terrible fear of, oh, Jan can solve that. Right? It's a bit of a flip, or a bit of a shift, maybe is a better word, a shift of the way you look at the challenge. So think about, what is it, because you've all done this already, because you've done the problem statement. Think about, what is it that I solve? How do I solve problems for people? How do I make their business life or their personal life, whatever your service or your product is, how do I make it better? Okay, so you know that. You know what your solution is that you offer. Now back that up and think about the circumstance that creates that problem. So now you can say to Steve at the networking event, or Marion, you can say, has this ever happened to you? And they go, has this ever happened to you? I can fix that, right? It's clunk, clunk, clunk in a different way. It's perfect. It's perfect. So, and not only have you set yourself up as a problem solver, or as a solution, you've had an exchange. You've had a dialogue. They've shared a little bit about their embarrassment, or their challenges, or their issues, or their problem, whatever, with you, and you have now had an actual conversation that makes you, what's the word? Makes you memorable. Makes you memorable. Okay? Remember, conversations plus connections equal clients. Because now Steve or Marion can walk away. They not only have had this interesting conversation with you, now they remember you. So now they can tell other people. They can also go, oh yeah, you should meet that person, or oh, I've got this card, you should call her, right? Because they know more in a fuller way about what it is that you do. Does that make sense? So we went from problem solving statement, just a recap here, problem solving statement, which is great, good start, to interesting, did you know, kind of sentences that get you to set yourself up as the problem solver. Then we went to that connection, that emotional connection of, oh gosh, has this ever happened to you? I can help you with that. Okay, so those are the three kind of better, good, better, best. Excellent. Now the final key, I hope all that makes sense, and I hope you're jotting things down and ideas as they were popping into your head about questions or interesting facts that you could add to your little blurb. But now the back end of that is, we're kind of back to dating. it's, sorry, is enthusiasm, is energy, is personality, right? Because so many of us when we get nervous, what happens to you? You feel a bit altered, don't you? Right? And I'm the same, because remember this morning I said to myself, oh, I feel weird. Well, what does weird mean? Well, weird means I feel a little bit off balance, where I don't feel quite like myself. And so if you go into a networking situation, and trust me, we all are, gosh, it's hard, it's difficult. I enjoy this, and it's still hard, right? Because you've got to, it's like that first step over and over and over again. So we have a tendency to not really be ourselves. We want to be a persona or something. And so what happens is we often get a bit stiff, okay? Or maybe we get a bit loud, or maybe we just get a bit awkward. And I get it. It's very difficult sometimes. And so what I would ask you is to remember to try to figure out who you want to be. Okay, that sounded really strange. But for example, I worked with a client yesterday, as a matter of fact, and very bright man, very bright businessman, works in technology, and was delivering a presentation that he needed to give to the board. And he knew all the information, absolutely, all the knowledge, all the facts, all the what. It was painful because it was so flat. Because in his mind, he thought, I'm the expert. I have to deliver the facts. I have to, it's like in his head, he was going, check it off the list, check it off the list, check it off the list. And he forgot to be himself. He forgot that he could laugh. He forgot that he could smile. He forgot that that it was an actual conversation, that it was him and the board, but there were still people on the other side of this. And I think that lots of us forget that. And so what I'm asking you to begin to do is to try and I don't want to say evaluate yourself, because we're all really hard on ourselves. Trust me, I know that. But I want you to kind of step outside and look at yourself and think, okay, was that really me? Is that who I want to be? And sometimes we have to dial ourselves up a little bit, right? Because when we're nervous, we tend to go a little bit, sometimes, some of us. And so you have to dial that up a little bit in a networking situation. So take a big breath and remember, I'm really good at what I do. Find the little pep talk in your head. I really do offer a good service. I really do have a great product. I really do a good job for my clients. And I would be doing a disservice to people if I didn't tell them what I could offer them. How would that make you feel before you went into a networking kind of environment, right? If you actually thought to yourself, gosh, I would be doing a disservice to entrepreneurs if I didn't, or to business people or to clients, if I didn't tell them, share with them my expertise. What does that do to your confidence level? Okay, it's just a shift in reminding yourself that you're good at what you do, and that's okay. And now, I'm not saying that you go and tell people, just go, enough about me. What did you think of me? Enough about me. Let's talk about my business. No, I'm just saying it's the place that you come from, right? It's this confidence that you come from when you say, I really do have something valuable to offer, and I would like to share it. And that, my friends, is chemistry. That's where it comes back to dating, right? It's that essence, that confidence, that, wow, he knows what he's talking about. Wow, she really does appreciate her product or her service. Okay, so that's what we all kind of need to find for ourselves. And it really helps if you've got a good sense of the dialogue that you want to share. Okay, so one more quick review, just so you walk away with something to tangibly work on. And that's because that's really important. So remember, conversation plus connection equals clients. So you got your problem solving statement is the first version. Here's what I do and here's how I can help you. Here's what I do for clients, the problems I solve. Add to that, you want to crank that up a little bit. Well, you start with the did you know, or find, it doesn't have to be did you know, but have you ever? Those kinds of questions that get people thinking, right? And that set you up to be the solver of problems. Okay, that's the second version. The third one is we connect that intellectual part with the emotional part that says, have you ever been in this situation where you felt not so great? Okay, you make that connection. Have you ever? Have you ever? And what did you do about that? I can help you. Okay, and that one creates a lovely connection. Now, I hope that makes total sense to you. We do have a few minutes for questions. If Mackenzie, oh, bling, the screen goes by. Okay, so yeah, so quick review there. And in the end, be you. Be you. Okay. Hello.
I love that so much. Thank you so much, Jan. That was awesome. And I mean, all of those tips, I feel like, especially now, because we're so not used to being in person and interacting, and then even virtually, having that on hand to even practice before now you know that you're going to be prepared to go into an event. I feel like I would need to practice, especially going back into the sandbox. My connection bone is definitely weak. So having those tips and just having those conversation starters in your head and ready to have those questions prepped and primed, ready to go, is so helpful.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Just even if you didn't use them, right? Sometimes if you've done it in advance and you've written stuff down and you've thought about it and it helps you think about, you know what, I really do have something to offer. I really do have a really valuable service. I really do have an excellent product. Then when you go into a networking situation, you're automatically more interesting, more engaged, and more confident about what it is. So it just changes your tone a little bit, right? Changes the feeling. So it's no different than, why do you put on a nice shirt before you go? Because it makes you feel good, right? And when you feel good, you've got a different presence about you. So if you do that prep in advance, I think that's a really great tip. Yeah. Totally. So do it in advance, and then it's there, right? It gives you that strength.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have a couple of questions here, and I thought of, I mean, if anybody on the call has an example of a one-liner or something that they want to run by Jan, feel free, type it in the chat, and we can definitely go over those if you want to get her opinion on it. We can get started with a first question here. This person says, I'm relatively new to face-to-face networking, although I'm very comfortable with presentations. When you're meeting a new contact, is it more important to find out what your company could offer them, or to create a friendly relationship and revisit potential business opportunities at a later date?
B. Oh, wait, it wasn't multiple choice. Absolutely. You want to build the connection, because it goes back to that notion of, like I said earlier, there's nothing worse than picking up the phone and saying, hi, we met at that networking event, and they say, I'm sorry, who? Yeah. Right? But if you have had an actual conversation, whether it's about your favorite dog breed or about the vacation that you had in common, then that gives me a platform and an actual relationship where I can phone or talk or connect, however you do that, email them later and say, hey, remember? And there's a warmth there, or a bridge there that has already been built. So it's absolutely more important to create that connection, for sure.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah. And even like it builds that on authenticity right now, like everybody's connecting to authenticity right off the bat. You don't want somebody, like you said, to just be like blah and spit out everything you do and what you do, but people are looking for that authentic side of a connection and relationship building right now.
Well, and I talk about it in sales. I always think it's funny. I'm what time is it? Quick story. Okay. I need to buy a new vehicle. Okay. I need to buy a new vehicle. And it always strikes me as very funny when I walk into a car dealership with my husband in particular. First of all, they talk to him automatically and they don't talk to me, which makes me mad. Bad start. Okay. Mm-hmm. But where I'm headed with this is that it's always interesting to me that the salesperson will say, well, yes, it's got 14,000 pounds of towing capacity, and it's got the torque of a blah, 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 and it's got the things of the 4-wheel drive. I have no idea what he's talking about. None of that is important to me. What's important to me is what's the gas mileage? What's the safety rating? How far does it go? Right? But he doesn't bother to ask me what's important to me before he goes bleh with all the information. So you can't tell someone how you can solve their problems when you don't know what their problems are.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that was great.
A little monologue there. I had a little rant.
Love it. The next question we have here is, what is the best advice for someone to find their audience? So that's a pretty broad question, but maybe in terms of creating intriguing conversations.
Are we talking about finding our, I wonder if we're talking about finding our avatar, finding who we're selling our product to, maybe? Is that what
maybe it's targeting a specific person in the room, or finding that right person to click with, in terms of maybe if they do want to find that right connection to build their business with.
Okay. Okay. Well, I would say to you that be careful of this, right? Because when we go into a room, whether it's virtual or in person, and we have this notion of, I am going to find this person who is the ideal client or the ideal customer, we miss out on a whole lot of potential. Because remember, even if if you and I connect and you and I have a very interesting conversation and I remember you, even if I don't need your product right now, I might need it later. And even if I don't need your product now or later, I probably know some people who do. Mm-hmm. I probably know some businesses who do, because you have no idea how big my network is. Mm-hmm. So I would say to you, be careful of sort of that client seeking behavior that we all have, right? We go into a room and go beep, 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 right? We wait, we're looking for the radar. So I think that you go into it thinking, I'm going to go and enjoy this and have some really interesting conversations, and make sure that they're shortish, because you want to connect with as many people as you can. But don't worry too much about finding the perfect fit, because you don't know who they know.
Right. And you might be limiting
yourself. I hope that answers your question, because we're a little unclear about the question.
Yeah, no, I think that works for sure. Somebody's asking, and I think you might have touched on this, so we might be able to skip over it, but just in case, somebody's asking, I wanted to get some information around creating intriguing conversations when getting on a sales call with corporations offering or selling wellness programs and supports for working parents. Something before the pitch and natural that leads into the pitch and leaves a memorable impression.
Wellness. Well, the first thing that pops into my head is wellness for parents in particular. Is I'm a parent, right? And one of the most important things to me is the health of my child. Absolutely. And I think that that's just a natural parenting instinct. So wouldn't you touch on that first, right? Would you? Because you know what's interesting to me is I always this used to be one of my own challenges, because I always felt like, gosh, I've never been a CEO of a company, or a CFO, or anything else of a company. So I used to feel a little uncomfortable working with those kind of people, because I thought to myself, I don't have relevant experience or relatable experience, because I've never been a C, right? Mm-hmm. And so it occurred to me, oh, but wait, I'm a human.
Yeah.
I have a husband, I have a house, I have a dog, I have a child, I have all the same problems and challenges and exciting things that happen in my life, and joyful things that every other human does as well, right? That we are all trying to do business with. So the reason I say it to you like this is because instead of thinking of this as a company that I'm pitching my wellness, think about we're talking about parents, we're talking about wellness, we're talking about children, we're talking about the health of a community, right? Start there, mm-hmm. before you think about what do I want them to buy. Right. Find the connection. It's no different than my car sales person. I think I said man, by the way, so apologize to any of the car salesmen out there. I mean, car sales person. Could have been a woman. So start with that, right? Ask them questions, right? Ask about them. What do they need? Relate on the parent level. And if you're not a parent, well, you were a child, you had parents, right? So automatically you've got a bridge. Start there.
Perfect.
Okay.
The next question we have is around facilitating a proper introduction during a network event. How do you do, what is too much and what is not enough?
Facilitating a proper introduction. So I'm introducing two people or I'm introducing myself?
I guess it could go both ways. I mean, you kind of touched on the way that you would introduce yourself at the beginning. So perhaps if you're bringing somebody to a networking event or you're coming with somebody, I guess what is too much and what is not enough? It could go both ways, I think.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Well, I agree. Mackenzie said, yes, we talked a lot about introducing yourself too much. And I think the challenge is right now for introducing ourselves is that we're also desperate to talk to people, that, maybe dial it back a little bit, because we all have a tendency to go, has this happened to any of you lately? And then, right? Because we're not social enough. So be aware, be noticing, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Notice people's body language. Do notice if someone's stepping back from you, or they're trying to get away from you, you need to dial it back a bit. So again, I'm being facetious, but just be aware. It's a conversation, not a monologue. It's a dialogue. That's why we're asking questions and looking for responses. Okay. Now, as far as introducing someone else, well, I would say to you, my job to introduce myself is to try and make me sound interesting and intriguing. Well, if I'm introducing Mackenzie to someone else, and I genuinely think that there is a connection there, that there might be, well, my job is also to make Mackenzie and this person that I know sound intriguing, so that it sparks the conversation between the two of them, right? So what if I said something to the effect of, Mackenzie, I really would like to introduce you to Steve, because I know you two have a lot in common, from, you both have Australian Shepherds to you just went on vacation to a cottage, but I know you got some business connections, and then I could do a quick, right? But let Mackenzie introduce herself, because she's got that figured out. She knows more about it than I do. And so does Steve. Okay. Mm-hmm. So your job is just to go, oh, you two are going to really have a great conversation. You'll set the tone, right? Mm-hmm. Set the tone, as opposed to, well, you guys might find something to talk about. No. I know this is really great. Mackenzie's one of the coolest people that I know, and she's so organized and she's so much fun to work with. Steve, I know that you have, right? I'll leave it to the two of you.
That's perfect.
So yeah, quick, enthusiastic, exit stage left.
Yeah, that's perfect. It kind of goes into this next question a little bit. So I don't know if there's overlap, but somebody's asking, how do you change your approach at a networking function when you're trying to engage with a group of 4 or 5 people versus just one individual? Would that be kind of a similar approach to what you just touched on? But depending on if you, I guess, know the people or not.
Yeah, that's part of it. And the first thing that pops into my mind is that not everybody knows the rules, right? No. And what I mean by that is, I get it. Not everybody's particularly good at the art of conversation, right? There is art and science involved here, and not everybody is great at that. And so sometimes you end up in a group of 4 or 5 and you're standing there and you very quickly realize that one person is dominating the conversation. Mm-hmm. And my hope is always that person is cognizant that there's another 3 or 4 people there and that they should include, but that doesn't always happen. You and I both know that. And so I would say to you, either find, because your goal is to meet many people and to spark conversation with many people and connection with many people, if you find you're in a group of 4 and there is no time, there's no air time, then maybe you should go elsewhere and come back. So that's obviously the first, and I don't mean not ever come back, but if there's not an immediate opportunity for you to participate in the conversation, maybe you don't know what they're talking about, maybe you don't have anything to add, then I would come back to that. I would go away and come back. But otherwise, find a way to insert yourself in the conversation that is interesting, right? And hopefully you know something about it, so you can use those same questions. Oh yeah, did you know that? Or I read this article that, or I saw this thing on, or do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that you add something to conversation, as opposed to, well, my company has a product that. Mm-hmm. Okay, because remember, it's conversation. You're trying to make yourself engaging and memorable. Okay,
That's very helpful.
yeah, that's a difficult one. I'll give you that one, that because we've all been there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There is one question here, and it's kind of similar to what you, it's a good question, actually, similar to your experience, Jans, when you've had before, but this person is asking, do you have any advice or things you would recommend an entrepreneur be aware of if they deal in an industry that many find intimidating or scary when having these engaged conversations? So in Rob's case, it's cybersecurity. So that's a different one. And yours is obviously public speaking, and the people are like, oh God, public speaking, like, yeah, get me away. But
it's just funny. I feel like I'm chasing people around the room. But Rob, okay, yes, I do, Rob. I have actually a suggestion for you and for anyone whose industry is difficult or challenging, right? Because what you have to do and what your job is to build a bridge, because it's like not many people don't know what quantum physics is, right? So if I'm a quantum physicist, I have to figure out an analogy. I have to figure out a framework that I can build so that you can connect to me, right? So in other words, I have to make it simple enough or accessible enough so that other people can go, oh, okay, so we can actually have a conversation. So for example, trust me, you naturally pick cybersecurity, which I really don't know a lot about, but okay, but here, don't try and explain electricity, okay, because you can't. So if you're trying to, for example, explain cybersecurity to me, it's not going to go very well, right? Because I don't have the relevant language, I don't have the vocabulary, I don't have the knowledge. So what I would say to you is, remember, we want to start a conversation. So say something like, have you or a family member ever shopped on Amazon? Yeah, or eBay maybe? Yeah, or even Kijiji maybe. Yes, yeah, I have PayPal. Yeah, I have. Okay. Well, I'm the person who makes it safe so that you can use your credit card on Amazon to buy products. Now we can have a conversation about that, right? Or you can say, did you know that 3% of people's credit card, blah, blah, blah statistics? Did you also know that more people shop online than have ever before? Well, I'm the person who helps make it safe so that you all can do that. Okay, so do you see what we've done? We've built that bridge. We're now, and then I can go, oh my God, yes, I bought something on Amazon the other day and I was so pleased that, and away we go. Right now we can have a conversation. Does that help?
Perfect. I think so. Thank you. And we've hit 11:01, so I want to be mindful of time, but there is one question here that I feel like is such a golden question, and I feel like you could probably bang it out in like 10 seconds. So tip for when you blank in a conversation and there is just that awkward silence that you don't know how to get away from without just like being like, okay, I'm leaving.
I would just, if it were me, I would acknowledge the elephant in the room. I would say exactly what Mackenzie just said. And I would say, and here we are at that awkward place in the conversation where both of us have nothing to say. And then we laugh and it's broken and away we go from there. So it's happening. Why not just acknowledge it and go from there, right? So that really is that's what I would do, because if you can make people laugh, oh my God, you've elevated the conversation to a whole other place. And now we both acknowledged it and away we go. It's no different than if I was standing on stage and I went to say something and I would say in a workshop, I would say the exact same thing. I was just going to say something really brilliant and I can't remember what it was. Well, it's happened to everybody, so everybody laughs.
Yeah.
Right? That same moment where there's awkward pauses in a conversation has happened to everybody. So acknowledge it, laugh, and the conversation will start anew.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jan. This has been incredible as always. We always love having you on and with all the tips and tricks. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're most welcome. It was great. Thank you to everyone for coming. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I know I'll be taking advantage of all the notes. There was a recording today that we will be providing all the registrants. So I'll be going back, getting my preparation ready for when the sandbox reopens and we can connect with everybody. Once again, massive thank you to our partner, Ovation Speaker Training, for delivering today's session. Our experts and resident sessions vary from month to month. across different topics. So be sure to check us out at sandboxcenter.com and be sure to follow us on social at Sandbox Center to stay connected with us. We appreciate everyone for joining us today and wish you a safe week ahead. Hope to see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Have a great summer.